Ciao everyone, welcome to Beatspot. I'm Marco and in this video I will show you how to use the Sidechain Filter feature in most compressors in order to achieve a tight kick and bass relationship. So let's dive into it. So here's a beat I recently made. So I feel like there's the need to have some sidechain between the kick and the 808. So I'll be using FabFilter Pro C2 to get that ducking and have some more movement in the low end. However, this feature, if available on the compressor we are using, works the same way on all compressors. So what changes is just the interface of your plugin. So first I have to go to the sidechain section and switch to external because I want an external trigger for the sidechain. So now if we play the beat, it goes like this. So the pumping is really heavy and noticeable and also undesirable. So the settings I'm using on the compressor are threshold all the way down, maximum ratio, fastest attack possible, and then the release is set to taste. Also I have a hard knee and that's it. So now let's replay it. So this is how it sounds. Now let's enable the sidechain filter. So I have this filter here. Let's use this high pass filter. And as you can see, we still have gain reduction, but it's not as noticeable as before. So why this works? We are high passing the input signal of the kick drum. Beware, we are not high passing the kick, as you can hear. We are just asking the compressor to react to everything above the cutoff frequency. So in this case, it's 420 Hz, but this is not a magic number. You can use whatever depending on your kick, especially because this is highly dependent on the frequency content of the kick drum. So for example, for this kick drum, it starts working well and tight at 420. As you can see, as I go lower, I have this uneven release, which is undesirable. So now I have almost 45 dB of gain reduction, which usually is quite enough. And if we want to scale it down, we have two ways. The first is to use the ratio. So this second one is to use the dry wet. Generally, I prefer to stick to the dry wet feature because I don't want to risk to change the behavior of the compressor in any way, and also I want to maybe copy and paste the same exact instant and just have to tweak the dry wet slider to get the amount of pumping I want. For example, I tend to use this exact feature and then I copy and paste it to my instrument group so my kick can pump a bit the instruments too the ambience and all the other stuff, because I prefer to have the kick cutting through all the mix, but at several amounts depending on the instrument. So this way I have way more control over the whole mix, and I can decide how much I want the kick to predominate on the other instruments. Now let's talk about the release, which is one of the most important settings in this technique, mainly because it dictates the time and the rhythm, the bounce that the compressor will apply to the duct instrument. So you can see Sidechain just as a mixing tool to carve out space, but I highly invite you to see it also as a production tool to give a meaningful pumping to the whole track. And so my suggestion for the release setting is to consider the BPM of your track and find out how a certain measure is long in terms of milliseconds, and then you can just set it to like 1 octave, 1/4, 1/16. It depends on your track and the amount of pumping you want to look for, and you will see that everything will fall in place because it's all tight, it's all locked to the BPM of the track, and it all makes sense. So in Ableton, basically, I just take the slider here, I zoom. So I know that this measure is something like 83 milliseconds. So let's go back to it. So let's set it to 83 and let's listen to it. So to me, it's a bit too much, so I want to scale it down, I want to halven it. So let's go to 31 and 5. So now let's try with 21. So to me now it sounds quite transparent, but still in time, still locked to the tempo of the track. So now I'm just going to scale it down to see how much I want of gain reduction. So now let's just listen to how it sounds with and without the sidechain compression. So last few words about this technique, especially if you are making EDM and you want to reach super high volumes. You may think that ducking all the way down the sub bass might be a good idea. Sometimes it is, sometimes it sounds good, but many times I find that it just kills the track. So instead of using one very hard sidechain compressor, use two of them. You can use one really hard but really fast, like 5 to 10 milliseconds of release, so you can just carve the initial space for the transient, and then you can use another one with a lower ratio or a lower dry-wet mix, and with a slower release to shape the length of the pumping, but without having too much gain reduction. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any question, feel free to ask in the comment section below, and see you in the next one.